what does it mean to be a human being? To grieve or to be frightened? Or, what does it mean to be in that moment of tension? For years I had been mulling over this scene that I had come across when working on a sheep farm. My wife and I were married, we worked on the sheep farm, and I was helping with lambing, really. And so one February we had this freezing rain, and it happened all night, and we'd have to go out into the fields in the night and try to find all the lambs that were wandering away into the woods. And in the morning, of course, we went back out to the fields to check, and we had missed a lamb. There it was in the snow. By this time it was all white, and it was just a look of complete... It had succumbed to its situation, which was that it had been attacked by ravens, and the ravens had eaten its eyes, its nose, and its ears, and it was just sitting there waiting to die. At times I try to instill in my art at least a little bit of that thematic power. Like, what does it mean to be a human being? Like, to grieve or to be frightened? Or, what does it mean to be in that moment of tension? What does it mean to be mortal, like face death? How does that work? Like, how do you love and then know that people you love are gonna die? So there's a very big, it's a super deep tension in there, and I really like to try to touch on that. I have a hard time making happy art. It's not propaganda for happiness, I guess is what it is, right? There's a sense of, I grew up with a sense of loss, let's just say, and I guess that kind of, or sort of a deep underlying sadness or despair. And so I had that, so somehow that makes it into my art. When I was growing up as a kid, people told me I was an artist, and that becomes an identity. Right? The problem, of course, is that when all of a sudden I'm trying to do a 2D piece, it's not how I want, it's not how I vision, I don't have the skills. If I had maintained that this artist label was an identity, I would consider it a failure of the self, right? And I would stop, which is, I think, essentially what happened when I was young. And so that is a mistake. People are good at art generally, not only because they want to do it, but because they practice. And they put thousands of hours in it. And if I look back at my life, it's like, hey, I was good at that because I put thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in. I would draw curves obsessively until I got, just because I wanted to see that curve pleasing, which seems ridiculous, but it's not. It's just learning, it's developing aesthetic taste, right? You overcome issues in your art like you overcome any other issues in life. You work at it. You do research. You get help, you learn, you have to humble yourself. And then you realize every time you do that, you realize that when you come to the end, you're unable to do it. That's actually a good thing. It means that your aesthetic taste has exceeded your physical abilities, which is what you want. You want to max out, you want to find your limit. Like, if I want to do a piece of art, I want to do a sculpture, I've got this vision, I can't quite do it. I learn how to do it. I overcome that until I get something I like. Yes, I did. And then it's hoped that your aesthetic taste will then exceed your abilities again. And so you'll become in that uncomfortable place where you can't do what you want. And again, you reach out until you've matched your aesthetic taste, and you just keep doing that and doing that and doing that as a way of living. This is what you want to do. This is who this is something you're practicing. You want to do it, like a musician or a scientist. They don't solve a problem and then quit. They keep going. Oh, I don't know. Might be already on. So The thing that struck me most, it was that the ravens are not, we as people, we talk about good and evil, right? Like everything's this, good people, evil people, like what are people doing? And it's a moral discussion. But when you talk about animals, people are kind of, they're amoral, they just do what they do. And I was trying to work through, with my art, the connections I made with the ravens, is that, you can't get mad at ravens for trying to eat a lamb, they're just living, that's what they do, they just eat things. And this lamb had succumbed to the cold, and it was free, it was fair game, it was free pickings. You don't get mad at a wolf for taking down a deer. So I still use animals to talk about people, because it's easier for people to understand when they talk about animals, because they've removed themselves from all the things that can confuse us, like race and morality and who, you know what I mean? Like those things confuse us from seeing who the person is, and how does God see us? So that's part of it, like with animals, is to not use people but use animals and to talk about what it means to be human. So that's what I work through with those pieces in my art. Is who are we? Like what does it mean? Like what, we're not getting out of this life without sorrow and despair and sadness. Like we're going to lose something, and it's going to be tragic. But I also have this sense of hope, like eternal optimism, because our hope is that eventually it will be made good and all things will be made well. What is art? I mean, what is art? What is literature? What is film all about? What is it we're trying to do? So if I see a space, somebody has a space or a room or a garden or something like that, and I say, I want something here, I just love it, because I think, what can I do in that space that brings in meaning? I can put something there, and that space is going to be more imbued with meaning than it was before. And somebody's going to, every time they're going to go by through that space, their life is going to be different a little bit, So these things add meaning, and they reflect meaning. They make visible the invisible, as it were. That's what art does. So when you can do that for people, like I have no problem being an artist as vocation, as a profession, because I know I make valuable things. I make things when I put I know that somebody's gonna, every time they walk by their sculpture that they, bought and really like, they're going to have a reaction, an aesthetic, a deeper reaction. That is good enough for me.